Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the close quarters. Hopefully this will be resolved by this time next year.
No pressure, Brandon.
No pressure, Mr. City Engineer. I do have an announcement to make before we even get started. The Midwest City Planning Commission heard an agenda item concerning a minor plat revision to transfer a parcel of land from the dealership at 5800 Tinker Diagonal to the dealership at 6000 Hudeberg Drive at its August 22 meeting. The agenda item was was made public to be heard today by the City Council, but it was inadvertently left off the agenda. New notice will be published on this matter and will be heard at the September meeting of the Midwest City Council. So if anybody's here to hear that item, we sincerely apologize for our error, and we'll try to make it up next council meeting. So thank you. Okay, I called the Midwest City Council meeting to order. What is tonight? This is August, isn't it? Still August? August meeting? August 23rd meeting? I call this meeting to order, and I would ask Mr. Sullivan to come forward and offer the invocation. Please stand.
Don't hurt each other up there, Mayor.
We'll try not to, sir.
Would you bow with me, please? Almighty Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this glorious day that we've enjoyed, Father, and the occasion of this meeting. Father, I ask that your hand of discernment and wisdom be upon this council tonight. Father, we ask that the decisions that are before them be made for the good of the whole. Father, we want to thank you so much for this great city that we live in, this great state, and this great nation. And Father, we have many who are dedicated to guarding our freedoms tonight all over the world. We ask your protection to be upon them. Father, we have men and women who are guarding our freedoms here at home. We have men and women who are protecting us from evil. And Father, we ask your protection to be upon all of those in those roles. Father, those who serve this city in a mighty way to provide essential services that are at the ready tonight, we ask that you be with them as well. Thank you so much for your son Jesus, the forgiveness we have from sin through the blood he shed on the cross. And we ask this in his holy name. Amen.
Amen. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce two cadets from the ROTC program, Carl Albert High School. They are Cadet Nimick. She's a senior, and when she graduates, she's going into dental assistant. And Cadet Roden, she's a junior at Carl Albert and plans to go into psychology. What college?
OU.
Oh, well, of course. So, all right, the floor is yours, ladies.
Will you please keep standing and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here, ladies. You may be seated. Before we get started on community announcements, I would like to take a moment. Yesterday, in a tragic event, county deputy was shot and killed serving an eviction notice. We had a staff member's wife that was part of that team serving that warrant, and fortunately she escaped without injury, but was still a part of that. I think this should go to notice, should be noticed that law enforcement remains a very dangerous occupation, and these men and women are out protecting us every day, and they are fraught with danger every day. And unfortunately, we lost one of the county's finest. He was a veteran, over 20 years, and it's going to be sorely missed. So before we get started, I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember him and his family. Thank you very much. We now move into community-related announcements. Mr. Lyon.
Few announcements for upcoming few weeks in Midwest City. August 26th is our fourth Friday Films at Regional Park. The Addams Family 2 will be playing with music by Boys Night Out. Enjoy food with Daisy Mae's Icy Creamery. If you have any questions, call 739-1289. September 1st is our 2022-23 Community Improvement Grant Program opens for submissions. Per the guidelines of the Hospital Authority, there'll be $557,333 in grant funds to be awarded this year by the Board of Grantors. So that process will be, you can go online and that process is starting. City offices will be closed to celebrate Labor Day on Monday, September 5th. So if it's your normal day for trash and recycling, please place your carts at the curb on Wednesday, September 7th. Any questions you have, please contact Public Works at 739-1066. And then finally, our sales tax check for the month of August was up 3.23% sales and use tax year over year. So we continue to be blessed with a strong sales tax in our community. So for July and August, we are 4.4% over year, and versus our projection, we're at 3.22%. So it's a good start.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Ms. Eads, you have anything?
The only thing that I would like to mention is school is back in session. Rose State started yesterday. Middle started a week and a half ago, as I recall. And so there are a lot of kids in the neighborhood. There's more traffic in the neighborhood, so please be cognizant of that. Saw a little bitty one walking by himself down the street this morning going to school. And so just be careful out there. There's a backup. Everybody have some extra patience. School zones are busy, so thank you.
And all of our school zones have brand new school zone signs, and so they're a little bit different than what the old ones were, so just be cognizant. The schools actually control those now, don't they, Mr. Bundy?
No, we have the ability to control from the computer.
Okay, great. All right, anything else from the horseshoe? We'll now move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any council member requests to discuss an item, or if unanimous consent cannot be received, then the item be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now move into our discussion items. Discussion item number 1, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing, discussion, and consideration to provide information and answer questions pursuant to Title 62, Section 859 of the Oklahoma statutes regarding the establishment of increment district number 3, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, in consideration of MTG Property Holdings LLC and Centrillium Proteins LLC. Request for development finance assistance in construction of a plus or minus 55,000 square foot food processing plant near 7210 Northeast 36th Street, and in consideration Global Turbine Systems request for economic development financial assistance to develop a maintenance, repair, and jet turbine overhaul facility at 7450 Northeast 23rd Street. Mr. Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Items 1 and 2 on tonight's discussion agenda represent the last city council steps necessary before tax increment district number 3, the North Side Improvement District, takes effect. As you all know, this is to set up the financial means by which we will repay our investment in infrastructure improvements, development finance assistance, and other expenses related to the Centrillium, Global Turbine Services, and Vision 23 projects. Over the next year, you will see at least 3 more items relative to the Centrillium project, which includes a zoning amendment that will likely be coming up on September 27. And then we will have a contract award for the construction of the water distribution and sanitary sewer collection projects, probably in spring. A contract award for professional engineering services relative to the railroad switch and spur design sometime in the summer of 2023. And then the contract award for the railroad switch. I'll now yield the floor to Mr. Dan McMahon, our TIF counsel, who will introduce the public hearing and provide a description of the highlights of the ordinance you are adopting tonight.
Thank you, Rob. Good evening, council, staff, members of the audience. My name is Dan McMahon. At the city council meeting held on July 26, 2022, I presented information on behalf of the city regarding the proposed establishment of increment district number 3, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma. The presentation and question and answer period which occurred thereafter constituted the first of 2 public hearings which are required by Oklahoma law prior to the creation of a tax increment district. This evening, the second of these 2 public hearings is being held. The purpose of this second public hearing is to receive comments from the public regarding the creation of the proposed district. Please take note that the council may consider and take action regarding an ordinance creating the increment district later tonight or at any subsequent special or regular meeting of the council. So at this time, interested persons are invited to provide any comments which they may have regarding the establishment of the increment district or the project plan. We would ask that you give your name and address prior to making any comments. If there are no comments, then we will conclude this public hearing, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the city council, we'd like to thank you for your interest and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. We appreciate your time and effort on this. No action is needed on item number 1. We will need to take a vote on item number 2. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
I have read too.
Well, that might help. Go ahead, Mr. Lyon.
Thank you. Discussion item number 2, discussion and consideration and possible action to approve and or amend an ordinance approving and adopting that certain project plan relating to increment district number 3, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, North Side Increment District, ratifying and confirming actions, recommendations, and findings of the Midwest City Local Development Act Review Committee, establishing increment district number 3, City of Midwest City, Oklahoma, designating and adopting the project area and increment district boundaries, adopting certain findings, apportioning incremental ad valorem sales and use tax revenues, creating the North Side Increment District Apportionment Fund, designating the Midwest City Economic Development Authority as the public entity to carry out and administer the project plan, and authorizing the authority to make minor plan amendments, authorizing the authority to issue tax apportionment bonds or notes, designating the city manager or under certain circumstances, general manager of the authority as the person in charge of the administration of the project plan, providing for severability, containing other provisions relating thereto, declaring an emergency and containing other provisions relating thereto.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will need to undertake 2 votes. Number 1 to approve the measure, number 2 to approve the emergency. The chair to entertain a motion to approve the first measure.
There's no emergency clause necessary.
I'm sorry?
It says declaring an emergency.
Yeah, I think that's a typo.
Mayor, I'm sorry to slow you down, but there is no emergency clause. That's been taken off of the final version of the ordinance.
Okay.
And another housekeeping measure, the last sentence on section 7 has also been deleted from the final version of this ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, sir. With that being said, the chair to entertain a motion to approve the item.
With those noted edits, move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
We need to do a roll call.
You do need a roll call vote.
Okay.
Ms. City Clerk?
Ward 1,
Yes.
Ward 2,
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Ward 4,
Yes.
Ward 6,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. That's a unanimous vote and the measure passes. Thank you. We move on to item number 3. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration for approval, including any possible amendment of one, a resolution declaring certain property located on the northwest corner of North Air Depot Boulevard and Reno, portions of the former Heritage Park Mall and other adjacent property as blighted. 2, accepting the blight report, and 3, requesting from Midwest City Urban Renewal Authority to adopt an urban renewal plan for the area, all in accordance with Title 11 of the Oklahoma statutes, Section 38-101, etc.
Mr. Phil Sewell, you'd signed up to talk about this item?
Thank you. I really wasn't sure if I really need the same thing or not. I just wanted to speak specifically about the right-of-way along Meadow Drive that's adjacent to the property, which I understand is under the responsibility of the property owner to maintain that. And it has been a blighted location for ever since I've pretty much lived in the neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
Especially this year, though. Right now, the weeds are 4 feet tall along Meadow Drive. We were hoping, as the Meadowwood Association, Neighborhood Association, that whoever would be the responsible party could perhaps utilize the eyes of the maintenance crew that maintains the median along Meadow Drive to keep an eye on that section of property that is in such disrepair, and follow the ordinances of the 10-day notice, all of those steps that need to be taken, but take it upon themselves as a city project or a responsibility to not let that get out of control as it is right now.
Yes.
It's either us, either that, or all of us as residents of the neighborhood to call in and complain, But you guys are there.
Yes, sir.
They're there on a timely manner. They can see it's a problem, and they can address it. And as you all well know, the high weeds begets litter, and the litter begets complaints, and it's really atrocious.
Yes, sir.
That area right there, and
this item is going to hopefully rectify some of these issues. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your comments, and we'll see what we can get done about that.
Thank you very
much.
Okay.
Mr. Mage?
Sorry, I have a follow-up question to that, Dawn. Sorry, it's regarding, but Dawn, if you'll answer this one. The issue that the gentleman is raising, given where the easement is that he's referencing, that's held by the property owner, correct? Is that our easement that we have access to? Because I have a concern to address his concern that at this point in time, the city, without giving proper notice, would not be able to go onto it and mow and keep it in good repair.
We will need to research and find out exactly what easement is there, what easement, if the city has an easement there, and if the city has an easement, what type of easement it is, the difference between a utility easement, right-of-way easement, all of that, to determine what, if any, action the city could take within that area, as opposed to then providing the landowner notice and the need to.
It'll have to go through the abatement process.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify it for the gentleman, like, it's not something that the city can step to currently and just rectify, without providing
Proper notice.
proper notice.
An opportunity to be heard and.
So, just
Yeah.
so you understand. Thank you, Dawn.
No problem.
Go ahead, sir.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you are aware by the reading of this item, this is a request to begin the process concerning Heritage Park Mall. There is a resolution before you to determine portions of the mall blighted. Those portions include the former Montgomery Ward's building, the former A&Z outlet, the main central body of the mall, as well as Sears. It is leaving out that portion of the mall that was the former Dillard's, which is now Life Church, as well as Pelicans and Becker's, which is down on the southeast corner. This resolution would include in the blighted area the former Whataburger, also known as Thunderburger. Now, for the city council to make a determination that an area within the city is blighted, under the Urban Renewal Act that is under state statute, blighted area is defined under state law, which is within Title 11, Section 38101 and those statutes. For an area to be deemed blighted, it has to be an area where properties, buildings, or improvements, whether occupied or vacant, whether residential or non-residential, by which reason of dilapidation, deterioration, age, or obsolescence is where there is inadequate provision for ventilation, light, air, sanitation, or open spaces. The information that we have provided to you today clearly demonstrates that, not only within the blight report, but also within the exhibits to the blight report as well. There are numerous pictures, as you are seeing up here, of those types of situations. It's also improper subdivision or obsolete platting of the land. Obviously, the way that the mall is laid out, there is minimal to any platting of the land, and that is now, to this date, obsolete. There's a deterioration or demolition of structures without repair, replacement, or investment. I think the pictures within the exhibits for the blight report and those findings within the blight report state and show that we have that type of deterioration or demolitions of structures without any type of repair, replacement, or investment. Improper street layout in terms of existing or projected traffic needs, traffic congestion, lack of parking or terminal facilities needed for existing or proposed future uses. Clearly within Heritage Park Mall, in this area that has been viewed or is being requested to be found to be blighted, we don't have street layouts for any type of traffic needs whatsoever, and would meet the definition of blighted for this purpose. You have a faulty lot layout in relation to size, adequacy, accessibility, or usefulness. Clearly, the way that this is laid out, we meet that. The report demonstrates that that portion of the definition is met. Unsanitary or unsafe conditions, deterioration of the site, or other improvements. You just heard from Mr. Sewell. We are being impacted by that right now, and the blight report also demonstrates that as well. So for these reasons, and please be aware that under the statute, we only need to meet one of them. We have met all of them, and the blight report clearly shows that we have met all of them. The request is under this is to adopt the resolution, finding that those portions of Heritage Park Mall are blighted, to accept the blight report and those exhibits within the blight report, and then finally to make a recommendation that an urban renewal plan be developed and be brought forth before the Urban Renewal Authority for its review and its recommendation.
I have a point of clarification really
Sure.
quickly. In your oral presentation, you included Sears by name.
Yes.
I think that was.
No, it is a part of the blight report.
Okay.
And is included within the blight report, although it is owned by a portion of a governmental entity of the city of Midwest City. It is included within the blight report itself, and there is information within the blight report showing that even Sears, in and of itself, meets these definitions of being blighted.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
So-
If we make a motion, you said there were three things that we need to make three parts to the motion?
It's one motion, but it needs to cover all three parts. That is correct. Mr. Reed.
Accept the blight report. Declare it the blight.
Adopt the resolution, accept the blight report and its exhibits, and then request that make a request that an urban renewal plan be put together and presented to the Urban Renewal Authority.
Chair would entertain a motion.
I think, do we have anybody else for public hearing, public discussion?
Anybody else?
Just a question generally.
Sure.
Can you, we have people watching on TV, right?
No,
No,
well,
we
I
don't.
mean, videotape, but.
Let's be recorded, so can you step up and ask your question so everybody can hear it? I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, just a general question in regard to the time frame for this, because information for the neighborhood is
Right.
very important. And so if there was some general time frame, I think I'm following what the proposal is and all, but, just maybe perhaps a ballpark figure.
Should you clarify that for us, Mr. Reed?
Sure. While I cannot give you a specific time frame, or I cannot give anybody a specific time frame because there are a lot of variables that will go into this. The next steps that we must undertake is to put together an urban renewal plan. And we will start, if this is approved tonight, that will immediately commence. Once again, once that is done, then there'll need to be a special session of the Urban Renewal Authority, and this will need to come up before the Urban Renewal Authority. Not only that, but with the urban renewal plan, we will have to make amendments to the comprehensive plan, which is the zoning and plan for the development of the city, and we will need to bring that before the Planning Commission. Once those are done, then it will come back here to the City Council. There will be public hearings on it before the City Council as well, before they can adopt. If all of that comes into fruition and comes into place, then we can begin proceedings for the city to begin the process of taking possession of the property. But we have to go through all of those steps first. So I can't say it's gonna take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and we don't know what kind of response we'll get from the property owners that we have, that we are engaging concerning this. But I can tell you, we're gonna move as quickly as we can. I can tell you, the city manager has given me directive to get this done as quickly as we can. So we are going to move as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr. H. Once again,
Mayor, just quickly, is there any reason to show any more of the pictures that we've taken in that area? I mean, this is just showing Whataburger here, just to show what the rest of the mall
You
area
have
kind of
those,
looks like. Kind of go
available?
through some of them.
Should be.
But they're also in the agenda pack that anybody
They are.
at home can download the 648
And I'll
pages,
zoom so
698
people can
page
see.
agenda, about 400 of which is this report, pictures, and everything else.
the interior of the mall, ladies and gentlemen, is scrolling through right now. As you can see, it's a mess.
Councilman Reed, this is in your ward.
One of the biggest, sorry guys. The courts have set it up to where it's very difficult to follow through and do things like this for a reason. And it's to protect people's property rights. So this has been a very long, very drawn out, the city's done everything in their power to try and bring this to a different conclusion from this. I am gonna make a motion to accept the report, if I can get all three of these in here, to adopt the resolution and to start the, what's the third? The urban renewal plan.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been 6 years in the making, and we're almost there.
Do we, for the purposes of the record, do we need a roll call vote on that?
We do not need a roll call vote, just unless you want a roll call vote. It is not necessary. The minutes will reflect each individual's vote on this item.
Very good, thank you.
Okay,
And I think we would be remiss not to thank the staff for getting.
Absolutely.
well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the work of the staff for over 6 years, and like Councilman Reed indicated, this is a long legal process, as it should be. And, but we have been methodically moving through that process for 6 years. And, the staff, have done a phenomenal job in getting this put together and getting it through the finish line. So again, thank all of you that have had a hand in it, and we will continue to work through the process. So, good job. Okay, item number 4, Mr. Lyons.
PC 2117, public hearing with discussion, consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of an ordinance to redistrict from R6 single-family residential, C1 residential commercial, O1 restricted office district, and C3 community commercial district to PUD planned unit development governed by C3 community commercial district, as well as MIX mixed use overlay for the property described as a part of the Southwest Quarter, Section 12, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, located at 7430 Southeast 15th Street. Mr. Harless.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. This application is a request to rezone the area of request to a PUD governed by the C3 Community Commercial District and as well as a MIX mixed-use overlay. The PUD outlines the 3 parcels. Each parcel is planned to be a mixed-use facility with 1 and 2 bedroom units commingled with light retail and office space. The centerpiece of the project is the existing Oklahoma Journal building. The developer plans to retrofit the existing structure as a mixed-use building with retail and multifamily units available, incorporating in the 7 lots directly to the west as a residential complex. The base zoning district, C3, was chosen to facilitate commercial activity. The mixed overlay zone allows for the commingling of residential and non-residential uses, while the PUD overlay zone allows for the code requested for special development regulations as part of the planned unit development, which are outlined in a table later in the report. Action is at the discretion of the council. At the planning commission meeting, there was some questions concerning this item, and I talked to the developer, Mr. Johnson, about some of those, and some of those things also came up with questions from the council. 3 of those were, one of those was the fence that separates the development from residential housing around the proposal, and Mr. Johnson has agreed that he would install and maintain the fence that would be up there for that project. Another question came up was about the lot, the southwest lot of parcel A, which is the main parcel, that he is trying to negotiate and get that lot to incorporate it into this development, but has not had any luck with that at this point. He's tried to make contact with them several times. And the other thing was trying to increase green space within the area. And as he develops the final plans on that, he assured us that he would try to have some additional green space for dog stations was a concern. And so he's assured us that he would do that. So with that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Harless?
I do have one remaining question. For everybody else's edification and knowledge, Councilmember Byrne and I met with Mr. Harless and staff on this project last week before last, time escapes me. On the schematic behind the general building, it was slated on schematic to be a 3-story building. And my question was, and I think that was pending last time, that's acceptable, that we don't have an issue with flyovers or anything of that nature with 3 stories there, correct?
Yes, that is acceptable.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, I wanted to verify that.
And the issue with the fence, just so we understand, so we get it on the record, we're not asking that the entire complex be fenced. What we're asking for is a fence that on the property line between the development and where there's a residence behind it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
That's where the fence is gonna go. So that, it doesn't have to fence where there's no residences, but we're trying to put a barrier between the development and a residential lot. That's
Yes,
still
yes, sir.
closed. Okay.
I was just
And
thinking about that one.
there's actually a pretty nice fence up there to be maintaining it or replacing it when it needs to be replaced. It'd be the responsibility of the developer.
Any further questions? Chair to entertain a motion?
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve this item, subject to certain restrictions and those that Billy addressed, specifically with regard to the fencing, as Councilmember Byrne just referenced, that the fencing, be in place and maintained on any, property boundary line that touches against a residence. So that would basically be on the west side of, the primary parcel, and then, on the west and south side of, the parcel immediately to the south, and on the east side and the south side of the parcel across Key on the eastern side of Key. Additionally, that green space be provided, somewhere in the development for any pets, that are residents of the development. And I think that takes care of it.
Second.
So with those conditions, I would move to approve.
I'm gonna second it.
We got a motion and I got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Item number 5, Mr. Lyon.
PC 2118, discussion and consideration for adoption, including any possible amendment of the proposed preliminary plat of Glen Haven described as a part of the Southwest Quarter, Section 34, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, addressed as 2905 North Glen Haven. Mr. Harlow.
Thanks again, Mr. Ryan. This application is a preliminary plat for the subdivision of a the subdivision of single-family homes and duplexes. In December of 2021, the City Council approved the ordinance to rezone a portion of this property to PUD, planned unit development governed by RMD, to allow the development of mix of single-family residential and townhomes and duplexes. The PUD outlines that no more than 100 dwelling units would be permitted, and this application follows through with that outline. Action is at the discretion of the council. There's a couple of items that came up with this at the planning commission meeting that I'd like to share with you. One was that there was some concern about parking on Glen Haven, and if you'll remember, we during that PUD statement, during that zoning process, there would be no permitted parking on the west side of Glen Haven on that to address those concerns. But other than that, I think that the applicant has met the requirements of the PUD. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Just so I know there's a lot of residents that are here on this particular deal, that, there's another one that's coming up next month from the planning commission, and we'll probably see it next month. Just so we're clear, I want them to know that that's not additional residents.
Yes, thanks, Councilman Byrne. The applicant has put in to do a small strip that is on the southern part of this subdivision, and they're going to join that with the commercial property that's on Reno to make that one lot, is my understanding, but it's C3 and it's not really have anything to do with this application.
But then just, if I saw it, I'm sure they have. We just want to make sure they understand that that's not going to increase the density of the residential part of that, correct?
Correct.
And all the drainage issues that have been identified have been worked out to the satisfaction of the city, correct, Brenda?
Any further discussion? Yes, sir. May I ask a question? Yes, sir. Just please state your name and address for us.
I'm Paul Smith, live at 315 East Ridgewood Drive. The applicant, I believe, said he was going to only have 77 units there, or 76. And I know that the PUD was 100 or less, but has there been any change to his application of?
No, sir, there is not.
So he's still going with that number?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So,
He's still going with 76, correct?
Yes.
so, to clarify, we can approve this since it's going to PUD with a limitation of 76 units as previously agreed by the developer, correct?
Correct. It's already noted, but you can note it again in your
Just-
motion.
There are some more folks. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Because I know there's some more folks.
Okay, we have a, chair to entertain a motion.
So I would move to approve, subject to the limitation of 76 units as previously agreed by the developer.
Okay, so I think somebody's wanting to speak.
Good evening, Mark Groves, Groves Consulting, 1800 South Sarah Road, on behalf of the applicant. Tonight's vote is for the preliminary plat, correct? And that's what we are discussing. The plat, it does have 76 units in it. It would have to come back before you if there was any change to that. The final plat will have to follow suit of that preliminary plat application, but I thought that I heard mention of the zoning being discussed, and that's not what's here before us tonight. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Grove.
Yeah, no problem. After this item, I would like to bring back the first item that wasn't open for public discussion. I need that to be open for public discussion, and then approved so that it goes through, I believe if we, asked the city attorney, that needed to be open for public discussion first and then voted on, but we can do that after this.
Take the vote, Bill.
All right.
Okay, I'm sorry, based on his comment, I just have to clarify, maybe I'm confused. Tired, sorry. I thought that I read in the materials that this is a PUD, correct? I'm not saying we're trying to zone it as PUD, but I thought I read that.
It is zoned as a PUD, but what we're hearing tonight is the
Right.
preliminary plat.
Okay.
And I brought up the PUD to say that it matched the PUD, and
Right.
the
So-
parking deal,
Okay,
so.
we're on the
yes.
same page then,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I just,
Does your motion still stand?
yes,
I would like to make a second.
thank you.
I have a motion and I have a second.
Please save me, I'm on a limb type
No
of thing.
sweat, that's what I'm here to do. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carried. Now, you're gonna have to guide us through this.
Yes, so what you'll need to do is we'll need a motion to reconsider number 4, and it will need to be approved. Then we'll need to do what Mr. Grubbs is referencing is the agenda calls for a public hearing, and there was not a call for that public hearing. So then you'll need to call for that public hearing, let anybody speak who wishes to speak, and then come back and re-vote again.
As you can see, we are totally out of sync tonight. So, I would like to reopen item number 4 and open the public hearing for item number 4. You wanna reread it, Mr. Lyon?
Do we really need to do that? Okay, no.
Does anyone wish to speak on item number 4? Hearing or seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and do we need to
You
re-vote
do
on
need to
it?
entertain a new motion.
I'm going to reassert my previously verbalized motion. Can we just pull that from the record from the?
Sarah?
Yes.
Can Pat reassert his previously seconded motion?
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. We can work through issues, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've proven that. What item are we on now? Item number 6.
14, I like that. PC 2119, discussion consideration for approval, including any possible amendments of the proposed final plat of Primrose Hill, described as a part of the southwest quarter, section 31, township 12, north, range 1 west, located at 316 North Post Road. Mr. Harless.
Yeah, this item is for the proposed final plat, as request to subdivide a single parcel into 30 individual parcels for single-family development. Access to the subdivision will be via one new street, Primrose Lane, off of North Post Road. The applicant has completed water, sewer, line extensions to serve all of the lots. The area request is currently zoned R6, single-family detached residence. No variance to any of the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the development of the R6 district have been allowed within the development. The completed cul-de-sacs is 999 feet in length. Action is at the discretion of the council, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Is this a public hearing?
No, it's not.
Okay, I have one question, Mr. Harless. In your report, on page 5, you make a statement that two citizens present at the August 11th Planning Commission noted increased level of drainage on their properties following the grading of the track. Imagine that I read and saw that.
Yes.
The applicant resolved to meet with the citizens in order to resolve the issue. My question to you is, has the applicant met with the citizens to resolve that issue? And if not, why not?
I know engineering is working on that issue. Mr. Bundy will help with that.
Councilman Byrne, we were notified today that the developer has met out there and has changed some of the erosion control that was causing the increased runoff. It's not a permanent thing. It was caused by the erosion control and how it was set up, which was causing the drainage.
So are you comfortable this and fixed?
It'll be a continual process as those lots gets developed and the erosion control disappears. It'll get fixed. Yes.
Well, okay, so educate us on how that'll happen, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Or if you
Well,
want to-
Mr. Groves actually has an exhibit, I believe. Essentially what happened was, because of our ordinances, we require all disturbed land to be wrapped by silt fence. And that silt fence, it holds the water a lot of times and reroutes the water instead of letting the water pass through. And I think that was kind of the issue.
Well, my concern is, if it's a temporary issue and it's dealing because of the construction, I understand that unfortunately, every time you move trees or brush, you're gonna have some of that run off, and that's why we have them put up the silt protectors or whatever it's called. My concern is that if we don't, do we need to do anything to give you the authority, or we wanna make sure we're not hearing about this a year or two after this development's been built, that these people are getting flooded out. And that's what I'm hoping, that something can get worked out so that doesn't happen.
Yes, we will work on it, and it will, you do not need to say anything to assist us. We have all the tools necessary to make sure that this is not a problem.
If you're comfortable with it and you have the requisite ability to fix it, then I'm fine. I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanna make sure that, because you know what we're going through at other
Yes.
places.
Yes, I do not relish our times of talking about drainage problems. I want to alleviate those to a zero. Well, I'm saying new problems.
We didn't like you, I think is what I just
New
spent a lot of
problems.
time together, trust me.
New problems. I want to
How to make friends and influence people.
well, we just had hot dogs, so
Billy, how are we-
relish is in my mind, sorry.
I completely understand where Brandon's coming from. I know I am,
You've got a reputation.
well, but, yeah, I probably do, but it needs to be, because we need to protect the citizens. Not against development, but we just need to make sure that people downstream aren't getting drowned out in swimming pools they don't want.
Absolutely, and we appreciate it.
But
And Megan and
Brandon
I will be
doesn't
your
relish
friends.
it.
It's okay. Brandon, on the other hand, maybe not. Megan and I will be your friends.
Staff really appreciates the support that you all give us to prevent these problems from occurring and solving the problems that have already happened. So, no, we appreciate the support.
That all being said,
I'm gonna move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next item, item number 7. Actually, there's no action needed on this item, so we can
Correct.
skip right over that.
Yes,
sucker,
sir.
right?
On date.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item under 8.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration, including any amendments of passing a resolution declaring the structures located at 2024 St. Mark a dilapidated building or buildings as defined under MCO 9-2 and abatement accordingly to the municipal code and setting dates to demolish and remove the structures from the site. Mr. Stroud.
And unlike Mr. Brandon, Mike, I relish my time with you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You guys need to talk.
This is a public hearing.
Okay, got it. So the next 2 items, which I will hand out pictures of current of what's going on as of today. The memo's pretty self-explanatory. The property owner was given notice, nothing was done, and so therefore they are both in front of you to be removed. Notice has been posted on the property of the public hearings, and title searches have been done, and those notices went out to everyone on the title search as well. So.
What does it cost on average? We are the ones that usually put the bill to pay somebody to tear a house down and move on to it.
It depends on whether it's built of cinder block and how much concrete, but typically between 7 to 15 is anywhere in the ballpark. This one specifically, the low estimate is right at $8,900.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to say about this particular item?
Is the owner of the property present?
No.
I have a follow-up question. I appreciate the problems, I'll put it that way, with this property, to say the least. However, having had recent conversations about how we are getting around to dealing with dilapidated properties in the city, I'm not understanding how this house gets prioritized and brought to us over other properties that I'm aware of. Is it because in this photograph, what appears to be the back door is ajar such that it's unsecure? Or what's the reason for this one coming as opposed to others?
Yes, the number one reason for both of these were the calls for service for vagrants being in the structures.
And so the back door on this property is unsecure?
Yes, an unsecurable.
And let me answer a little bit of that question. I know we've had some discussions. Right now, Ryan Rushing, our Director of Operations, and Mike Stroh, the Neighborhood Services Director, is working on, I have a draft memo that still has some work to be done, where we are coming up with a rating system for these some 30 some plus houses, and to come up with a fair system that rates them and ranks them, so that as we go through with the amount of staff that we have and as many as we can do, it's not about money, it's about time that it takes to go through this process. And we'll outline exactly how that process works, and we'll send that out to the entire council within the next week or so.
And I don't wanna put words in Ryan's mouth, or maybe, well, I probably do wanna put words in your mouth. Did you not say even if we had all the money and all the staff, we don't have the contractors that are available and readily could take, if we had a pot of money that could take all 80 or 90 homes that we know are problematic, we still couldn't get them torn down, because there's not enough people out there doing this. Did I understand you kind of say that, or did I misunderstand you?
That's not exactly what I intended to say. So as you know, Tim mentioned there are homes on this on the list for abatement, and each of these homes has to go through the due process, and so that can be anywhere from 6 months at the shortest period of time to a year. A lot of issues that we run into is for us, once it gets to that place where the owner is not improving the property or making significant improvements to a property in a timely manner, that's when we come in and do our due diligence, do the title searches, do all the background homework to ensure that we can legally remove the structure, bring the item before you like we're doing this evening, so we can legally remove that structure. Oftentimes we do have difficulty getting multiple bids when it comes to the demolition of the property. We are actually working to put together a larger bid system where we can have one contractor kind of on retainer, to where we can have them do all of our demolitions and kind of award them all at once, base that off of square footage, much like Mr. Sullivan did during some of the previous demolitions we had, I believe, when some of the properties were acquired in the original square mile. So.
Okay, thank you. Good question.
Any further questions?
Councilman Reed, that was something that I sent over in my question about these properties, about doing like a bulk contract type of thing, so that we get a rate that is reasonable, or as reasonable as the market will bear. In order
They
to
listen to you. What they're looking at doing.
So.
It's just, and again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Doing something like this, the protections are in place for a reason, to make it very, very difficult to take somebody's property. And it should be difficult. It is very difficult when you're that neighbor. And I've got a couple in Ward 4, there's a couple in some other wards. We know these houses, that some of the landlords, they're smart enough to realize the very bare minimum that they can do and stay just ahead of the law and never have to have it come to this. And it is frustrating, but our staff is doing everything they can. And as Ryan said, it could take 6 months minimum, year length, from the time it looks like this basically to when we can have it lighted and torn down. So when you've got a house like this that's in your neighborhood, call the city every time something's out of whack. Not every day, it didn't get out of whack every day. But when the weeds get to a certain level, you see a door that's ajar, you see a window that's broken, you see structural, roof is caved in, something like that, pick up the phone, help us help your neighborhood. And that's the only way that we will be able to succeed as a city, that these guys will be able to do their job correctly and efficiently, is if you guys are involved, letting them know, because they can't see every single structure that we have every single month or every single week like you will do next year.
So to clarify one thing I want to stress is the houses that we don't bring to you that also get abated, that the owners do take care of. I mean, there is structures like that. I mean, I can tell you that the ones that I've brought before you that you guys have approved us to remove, with these here tonight, we will have used 4 separate demolition contractors as the best bids, so our best estimates. And so I want to stress that, because they do change by how much work they get as to how their pricing goes as well. So if we have an ice storm, if we have something of that nature, their prices go up because they are busy doing other things. But the owners can contract and get some things done as well, which has happened. I mean, I know of 3 that have come down in the last 2 months that we've given notice to. The owners have contracted with demolition companies and they're gone. So it's not all, there is good landlords as well, is what I want to stress, that take care of their property. So these are the ones that come before you have been through the process of, we felt like we've ran its course and have been ignored long enough in the neighborhood, need some assistance. Now with that, the list also changes. Fires, things of that nature happen every year, so it's a fluid list, so I want to stress that.
With all that being said, you entertain a motion.
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
I've already announced that, but I can announce it again. This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before council on this particular issue? Hearing or seeing none, Chair, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next item, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration, including any amendments of passing a resolution declaring the structure or structures located at 2201 St. Luke Avenue, a dilapidated building or buildings as defined under MCO 9-2, and abatement accordingly to the Municipal code and setting dates to demolish and remove the structures from the site. Mr. Stroh.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. I'll use your last questions as my prods. So, Mr. Reed, this one is right at $11,000. The owner is not here. It is the same owner as the last property. So both of these houses is the same owner. Happy to answer any question. I will say on this one, the last time there was utilities at this property was 2004.
We're just now. Yes. Why are we just now hearing something on this one?
It is a well and septic, and so, but the trash service was there, but there was people living to include, currently we're still having calls for service. There's two outbuildings on this, and we get calls for people living in the outbuilding, and so.
Mike, I know this is probably not the right time to ask, but how long does it take you guys to address something like this? I mean, from the time you start receiving complaints and everything, how many man hours do you usually put into these? And
It changes. Like I said, the list changes with what's going on and the fires, et cetera. We've been working pretty hard on it for the last 6 to 8 months, trying to keep them coming in front of you every other month. And that has helped, and we did have a break there for a while where we weren't working any. We had lost, we were using grant funds to tear them down, and now it's part of our city budget that we're tearing them down. So that was a big gap, and we stopped there for a long time, and so the list grew bigger. So it does change, but right now, as Mr. Rushing said, anywhere from 6 months to a year. We've done some things and fixed ordinances as well that you guys have changed, and we've sent notices and then turned around and remailed new notices because we're using better ordinances. So from that, we've kind of added a little more man hours because we've turned around and done multiple. But we have a guy that you guys approved in the budget. Ms. City Clerk, how long have you had code in your department now? 3 years? So we have a guy now that is fully, his job is working the condemnations of people living with no water and things of that nature. And so that has helped us with the identifying and timing as well. So that's sped it up some.
But not every. I know one of the issues that we've always had is, of course, absentee landlords. Let's, of your just ballpark, how many of these do we have that are not in state?
I honestly do not know, sir. I don't know the full list. My guys work it, and I get involved near the end, so I wouldn't know. I would guess that we're probably 90% of them being on the rental type just because of not being fixed, where your typical homeowner is going to have the insurance and have them abated. But that's a pure guess on my part.
We will, just the information that we'll follow a lien against these properties for the cost. We'll front the cost, obviously, but then we'll put a lien on the property.
So I have one other question. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say that some of the details about the man hours, which is another good question, will be within this memo that Ryan's writing. I've read some of it.
My question is this, Mr. Strauss, you referenced this is the second property by the same owner. I'd like to know, are there any other properties that this owner holds in Midwest City, and what do they look like?
Yes, and just as bad.
Then I'm gonna ask that we pursue those other properties.
Some are occupied.
Again, like, I'm gonna ask if they're this bad, how are they code compliant? And I understand that the habitual term of ugly isn't violating a code, but if they are this bad, how are they possibly occupied? And are we sure they have utilities onto them? And are we sure that they aren't in violation of code?
I can know on the top of my head, I can answer factually that 2 of them are occupied and have citations on them currently in our court system and do have utilities. I believe he owns another one after that I'm not 100% sure to be able to give you an answer, and it may be on the list. It is not open, and so that's why it is not higher up on the priority.
I'm gonna ask Mr. City Manager, that we get a report on the other properties this gentleman owns and what their status is with regard to notices.
Okay, Mike can take care of that, it's no problem.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Ms. Stroh?
And I'm gonna move to approve.
Public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council on this particular issue? Hearing or seeing none, go ahead, Ms. E.
Gonna move to approve this item.
Second. I got a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I would say that is unanimous. Next item, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing, presentation, discussion, and consideration, including any possible amendments of a resolution adopting the proposed amendments and adoption of an ordinance amending the Midwest City Code, Chapter 14, Elections, Section 14-1, wards created, boundaries of the city, ordinances for the city of Midwest City that create and define the ward boundaries for the 6 wards in the Midwest City. Mr. Monish.
Thank you. This is my third time to be up here on this issue. To briefly go back over what we're doing, this is obviously the redistricting ordinance changes, as well as the resolution to adopt redistricting. Brief review. State statute requires all municipalities to have all of their wards substantially equal in population. When you look at an analogous provision within Oklahoma state statute, that presumes that to be substantially equal, they should be within, the population of the largest and smallest should be within 10%. When we looked at our wards after the last 2020 census was certified, the difference between the largest ward, population of the largest ward, and the population of the smallest ward was about 13%. So we knew we had to make some changes. As opposed to throwing this open to any kind of political consideration, a determination was made to let our GIS staff take a shot at drawing the ward boundaries and to see if they could bring it within that 10%. The proposal that is before you with the changes would make the differentiation between the largest and the smallest wards at 7%, which will bring us into compliance with state statute. Additionally, the changes to the boundary lines are now primarily running along section lines. So they're easily defined, easily found, much easier to do. Now, according to state statute, we were required to give 30 days notice of this action. That was published in the Midwest City Beacon on July 20th, 2022. We also opened, when this was first presented at the first meeting in July, all of the information, maps showing the old ward district lines, the proposed new ward district lines, the resolution, and the amendments to city ordinances were placed on the city's webpage. There was also a link on there for us to receive any comments on that. To date, the last time we checked, which was right before this meeting, we have received 1 comment. It was from Councilman Byrne. And that is the only comment we have received either from city council members or from the public on this. I want to commend staff, Ryan and his GIS staff. They did a phenomenal job on this. And Mr. Lyon for directing us through this process. It's one of the few I've seen that has not been, any kind of politics is played in this. And so it's up for the city council to make their determination if this is what the ward boundaries would be. This is the last time I need to bring this before you. This is the public hearing, and you have the ability to adopt to approve the resolution and adopt the city ordinance amendments. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Mark?
Again, I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank the staff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
GIS did a good job.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before council on this matter? Hearing or seeing none? Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. Thompson, I didn't see you there.
If I can, I do have one, I guess, a question. Mark Thompson, 212 Country Club Terrace. My question is, once the boundaries are changed, will there be any effort to notify citizens that they're in a new ward and who their council person is?
Other than social media or,
We can actually send something out in the utility bills and identify where the new boundary lines are.
We'll put it on the website as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Good question, thank you.
any other questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, the chair entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Next item, Mr. Lang.
Discussion, consideration for adoption, including any amendments of an ordinance amending the Midwest City Municipal Code, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Section 2-11, Time of regular meetings of council, and providing for repealer and severability. Mr. Meisch.
The last time changes were made to this provision, there was an interesting omission. And that omission was the month of October to have a regular city council meeting. So it is up to the will of the city council whether they would like to have a meeting in October or not.
If we take no action or vote no, we don't have a meeting in October.
That is correct. So what this recommended change is, or what this change would do, would be to add October back in and set that meeting on the 4th Tuesday of the month and include it in that list of months in which there is one meeting in that month, and it would be the 4th Tuesday in October. Now, I will tell you as well, you do the months of November and December, the meetings for the city council are due to the holidays is the 2nd Tuesday in the month. This can be amended if you want to change that, but this has at least been written to set the meeting in October for the 4th Tuesday of the month. Be happy to take any questions.
What do we take no action?
So is there any statutory requirement for us to have a meeting in October?
There is a statutory requirement that the city council must meet once a month.
Well, I guess that blows that idea.
I make a motion.
I have a comment that I'd like to raise really quickly. I raised it upstairs, but for those of you who weren't present, since it is in the month of October, I do feel like one additional note should be made, and that is that I feel like it is appropriate that we should be allowed to dress in OU attire, since the OU Texas game is in October. So I'm willing to concede your request that we meet in October, but I would like to vanquish the professional wear requirement, and you may
We
wear.
obviously don't have professional wear requirement, he'll even tell you that.
I try.
But in all seriousness, Pat,
Make a motion that we set a October meeting for October 25th.
It would, all it has to be is set as because of the way the ordinance is written, it would just be written to be the 4th Tuesday of the month, and whichever month of October.
Fourth Tuesday
Do
of
we have to set a
October.
time or?
It's already set in the city ordinance at the time for start.
it's
And
a
yes,
6
we
o'clock
can
around.
wear our OU attire.
Thank you.
And-
Second.
I don't own any.
I know you do.
Also, my birthday would be on the 26th.
Oh, then you can wear your birthday suit.
Cakes, anything, gifts. No cash, just gifts.
Just gifts.
Birthday suit no matter what you wear on your birthday.
So I do have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I abstain? I've never abstained.
Go ahead, knock the
Okay.
lights out. One abstention. Motion carries.
I wouldn't want to be a part of that group.
There you go. Now you are. Let's see, we move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council that has not been covered on the agenda? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned.
Point of personal privilege, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. We're hereby recessed for 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
5.
5. We don't have much left, but it is important.
I got the under tonight.
I got you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we call the order the Midwest City Municipal, Municipal Authority, we have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda. Trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests to discuss an item, or if unanimous consent cannot be received, then the item will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now move into new business public discussion of the authority. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. Call to order the Midwest City Hospital Authority. We do have consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda. So trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests to discuss an item or unanimous consent cannot be received, the item will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. Sorry.
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We do have one discussion item. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of adoption, including any possible amendment to sell $6 million in U.S. bonds and buy $6 million in short-term investment funds, change fund funds, and then change fund managers or make changes in the statement of investment policy guidelines and objectives. Mr. Cromar, you want to go through this real quick?
Yes, the Midwest City Hospital Investment Committee met with Jim Garrels on August 2nd. Based upon just the current environment and recent rate increases, he has given us the suggestion to sell $6 million in U.S. bonds and use it to buy $6 million in short-term investments, just to be more liquid and to take advantage of the current hike in rates.
Any questions?
And he's also got a second with him now too, if you want to explain it.
Yes, he has. He's introduced us to a possible continuance in whenever Jim decides to retire. He's a great fellow, Keith. He's seconded the suggestion to be able to do this, and so he's been very comfortable with it. Jim's very comfortable with it. Jim's been very good to us. Us as the finance, we've been keeping track of what has been going on in the market, and so we'd also suggest that we move forward with this.
And this new guy is younger. He's very astute. He's from Georgia, which is not good.
He likes Georgia football, but other than that, he's very sharp. I think we've met with him either 2 or 3 times. Three times, and every time we meet with him, it's we're more impressed with.
Yeah. Keith Reynolds from Marco.
Yes.
Yeah, and this company's a little bit bigger, which offers us a little bit better, not greater return, but opportunities that they've got available for us to be able to diversify more in. We weren't big enough with Jim, and whenever he decides to retire and we go to this guy, I think we'll set up a lot better.
Like I said, he's very sharp and very personable too.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very responsive, very personal. He's
Hey, but I'll
very
take another
supportive.
fan over another fan any day.
So, at this time, I would move to approve the agenda item and stifle Councilmember Reed.
I'll second both those.
There. I do have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Special Economic Development Authority. We do have a consent agenda, and once again, these items are placed on the agenda so that the trustees can, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests an item to be removed or unanimous consent cannot be received, then the item will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We now move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned, and I call to order the Midwest City Special Utilities Authority. And once again, we do have an agenda or a consent agenda. I'm not going to read that again, and I would entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Now we move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned and done.
Yay.